Hello. Today I'm reading from the book Suffering is Optional by Cherry Huber. Page 1. Actually, let's start with the introduction. What do we mean by suffering is optional? The Buddha taught that suffering exists because old age, sickness, and death are inescapable. Another way of describing suffering is that we want what we don't get, aren't satisfied with what we do get, are separated from those or that which we love, and are forced to endure those and that which we do not love. As I see it, the whole thing comes down to not getting what we want. When we don't get what we want, we are miserable. So what do I do? We want to know. First, we pay attention to the voice that asks that question. We pay attention to what it is that we want. We pay attention to the experience of feeling miserable when we don't get what we want. We notice and question our beliefs, including the assumption that our problems will all be solved by doing. In that process of noticing and questioning, our attitude changes. We no longer take life so personally. In short, we shift our focus from clinging to the content of our suffering to observing the process. Already, in that shift, we have ceased to suffer. Soon enough, however, the suffering will be back. The Buddha's great realization was that suffering arises from a deeply held but mistaken notion that each of us is a fixed, distinct self that is separate from everything else. We call that sense of a separate self egocentricity, or just ego. The question, what do I do, is the cry of egocentricity. In fact, there's nothing to do because there is no separate self. The whole idea of us against life is an illusion. Where does that illusion come from? It is instilled in us from birth, through what we are told about the world, what we are taught about how we should be, what we observe in those around us. That is what we call conditioning. Both the process of coming to believe those things and the internalized set of beliefs. We are conditioned to believe in the illusion that to be acceptable, we must turn away from our own inclinations and follow socially prescribed rules. Our conditioning is so pervasive that it can be difficult to see, but that is what we do in this practice of awareness. We observe our egocentric conditioning as the only way to live free from its constraints. Here's how it works. We suffer when we resist life. We suffer when we believe life should be different. We suffer when we think there is something wrong with life that needs to be changed or fixed. Being in a position to judge in that way requires separation from what is being judged, and only egocentric conditioning believes itself to be separate from life. As we see through the illusion of separation, we realize there is no separate self, no alternative reality in which life is different, no other choice, and our suffering falls away. Only egocentricity suffers. You will hear a voice in you insist that it does not want to suffer, but we quickly discover that it is not so when we try to end the suffering. How do we end the suffering? Decide to meditate. Choose to do attention/awareness exercises. Plan regular silent retreats. Commit to a sitting group. Let go of a habit. Then watch how resistance arises. Listen to the internal voices telling you, no, you don't want to do that. All I'm doing is helping you not to suffer, they explain. But you will never end the suffering of egocentricity. Egocentricity is suffering. The only way to end suffering is to see through the process that keeps us believing in our separateness from all that is. Now, each time we see through a piece of that process, each time we step beyond the mistaken view we've been conditioned to believe in, those same voices, the voices of egocentric conditioning, will tell us we are wrong or stupid or worse. Having a chance to say out loud what we hear from those voices is a powerful way of disengaging from them, and that is one of the things I treasure about doing awareness practice with others. Things that sound unquestionably true inside our heads become less convincing when we say them out loud. I would encourage you to do all the exercises in the book and to pay close attention to your reactions to the exercises, whatever they may be. Each exercise is followed by a discussion, consisting of a sample of questions and comments from people in the online workshop, along with my responses. By participating fully in this process as you go through this book, you can prove to yourself that suffering is optional.